Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Update on the rain heading our way, and boy, is it going to be a miserable cold rain. Actually got a couple reports this morning of a little bit of sleet mixing in, which is probably not going to be that shocking, to be honest with you, because the cold layer is cold enough that we could see a little mix here early on with sleet. Again, temperatures are way above freezing, so no threat and won't last long. Eventually, the warm air is going to win out. But you can see the system heading our way. We've got a pretty strong northeast wind. The high pressure kind of wedged in is supplying some cool air. So it's cool enough to keep it chilly, but not enough to make wintry weather, except maybe the eastern facing slopes of the mountains, where I wouldn't be surprised late tonight, tomorrow, we see a brief mix of maybe some icing up there. Let's go in closer, and I want to show you temperatures real quickly, just to show you how cold it actually is out there, because temperatures are really chilly across the area. Let me turn off the large font. You can see most of these temperatures are in the low to mid 40s. So this first couple batches of precipitation moving in, it's not going to be unheard of that we see a little bit of maybe some sleet mixing in with the rain, but eventually it's just going to be all rain as this mess heads our way. So let's look at the future cast as this kind of heads our way over the next 24 to 36 hours. All right, let's go hour by hour here. You see the rain beginning to spread in as we go into the afternoon. After 2 o'clock is when I think the rain will really start to pick up. It'll be light at first, drizzly, misty kind of stuff. And again, could there be some sleet mixed in initially? Absolutely, but no big deal overall. It just tells you how cold the atmosphere is. As we go into tonight, this is when the rain really picks up in intensity. And you can see the pockets of very heavy rain developing. You see this kind of red shade up here? That's where we could see a little bit of icing, especially up in West Virginia, Western Virginia, and Maryland. And you may notice even a little bit in the eastern facing slopes of the North Carolina mountains. But this is 2 o'clock in the morning. That's heavy, heavy rain moving in. Look at that. 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Man, the morning commute tomorrow could be pretty rough. The bus stop's not great in the morning as this pushes to the east. You see some of the red showing up. The heavier rain, again, pushing through between, I'd say, 4 a.m. and about noon. Then it begins to exit the region and moves out. The wintry weather's up here. So if you're traveling up in that area, just a heads up, Interstate 81, man, that could be pretty icy as we go into tomorrow morning. And then you see the cold air spill into the region. This is when the cold air moves in. Yeah, maybe a few northwest flow snow showers on the back side of this. Now, let's back this up. We didn't talk too much about the severe weather risk because there really isn't much one here. The risk for severe storms is down here. Boy, this has been a prolific tornado-producing system. Tomorrow, that risk will be for coastal Carolina. So just a heads up, it's not a very huge risk. I think it's going to be pretty light. And I don't expect much here in North Carolina. South Carolina, Charleston South, a little more buoyant. So this will be an area to watch. So folks in the low country, down into Florida, I would definitely keep an eye on it. And then the system obviously pushes out of here and it's long gone. Okay, so that's the weather today and tomorrow. So it's going to be wet. I'll loop this one more time and you can see the system. That's the mess heading our way tonight through Thursday. Okay, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. We're still talking about this even though it's still, now 11 days out, Christmas. Man, what is going to happen behind the system? Well, it is going to get cold, and I'm talking frigid behind this system. So as you probably heard, it's going to be cold. I mean, we've got some cold air heading in. So if we look at the long-range guidance here, we start seeing the cold air. We start looking at the pattern for cold air. You see it moving into most of the country, but this is seasonably cool here for the weekend into early next week. What's not normal, it's what's heading our way late next week going into Christmas weekend. You see these kind of aqua shades up in Canada? Those are below zero temperatures, and that is well below zero up there. That cold air mass or Arctic air is going to be diving to the south. And as we go through time, this is next Thursday morning, look at that cold air moving into the United States and then diving down to the south. Now, how deep and how far the cold air gets, that's always the question in these outbreaks. Could it be centered more in the northern plains, central plains, southern plains? Either way you look at it, by next Friday, we're going to have cold air moving into most of the country. So this is still pretty far out. You know, we're talking 7 to 10 days out. And we've already seen a lot of social media viral posts of single model runs, which already changed 8, 9, 10 times because the models run every 6 hours, by the way. And nobody shares the models that show nothing. They only share the one. And from sources like Billy Bob's, Facebook page and, somebody's brother, sister, cousin, uncle's friend of a friend that works with them at the church shares things and they have no idea what they're looking at. So I'm honest with you. I love snow and I am not going to lie to you and tell you something that you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what's likely going to happen. That's my job. So is it going to be cold for Christmas? 100%. Is it going to snow? Right now, the chances are pretty close to zero. Historically, they're about 2%. Would I say it's a little higher than that this year because of the cold air? Yeah, probably in the 4 to maybe 8% range right now. That's still pretty tiny this far out. So let's look at something called ensembles. And you probably have heard me talk about this. Instead of looking at a single model run, a lot of our models, we run different simulations with subtle differences to see what the outcome of the atmosphere is going to look like. And I look at literally hundreds and thousands of these outputs daily, every 6 hours from various models. The European model, which is a very popular model, everyone talks about. You can see it has 51 variations or ensemble members. This is basically today through the 29th of December. There's 2 singular ensemble members that show trace to 1/10 of an inch amounts early next week, mid to late next week, and nothing around Christmas. And the average of that is 0. They're so tiny, it doesn't even come into the mean. So that's a European. GFS, the American, has 31 variations. This runs through Christmas Eve, 0. Okay. So between the two, you've got 51 and 31. All right. All right. You do the math. 51 and 31. You've got plenty of guidance there that says 2 members out of that show a little bit of snow sometime next week. The rest don't. That's tiny. That means virtually no chance right now. Could the pattern change? Absolutely. But right now, based on the guidance, there's nothing that shows snow next week. So I'll keep an eye on it. I think the cold air is the story. Whether we get wintry weather, it's all about the storm track on top of that wintry weather. So we'll keep an eye on it. But remember, today is the 14th. Christmas is still, a week and a half away? I mean, we've got a long ways to go, folks. So we've got time. No need to get carried away with trying to forecast what this thing's going to do right now. We've got time to watch it. But of course, be safe, be dry. The rain the next 24 to 36 hours, certainly not going to be fun as temperatures only hover in the 40s to near 50 degrees.